Welcome back. In this lecture, we are going to learn about glands. This is a very short topic. We're going to cover some of it when we learn about the integumentary system, and then come back and learn a lot more about it when we do the endocrine system. So basically what a gland is, these are groups of cells in your body that secrete substances. And those substances either are going to be used someplace else in the body, or else your body is just going to eliminate them. And when we talk about glands, we divide them into two big categories. The first group are called endocrine glands, and the second group are called exocrine glands. So crine just means to secrete, the C-R-I-N-E at the end of the word. And endo and exo, at this point, you should know what those prefixes mean. So if you don't, double check with me. So let's learn first about endocrine glands. So an endocrine gland does not have a duct. It's not taking any product to a surface, whether it's an internal surface or out surface of your body, it doesn't matter. What it does is its secretions go directly into the blood vessels. And these chemicals that it's secreting, we call these hormones. And so once these hormones are in the blood vessel, then they travel usually long distance to arrive at their target cells. And so there are a lot of different endocrine glands and a lot of different hormones. And so we will spend more than a full lecture learning about the endocrine system, but not until we're done with the nervous system. So it'll be a while before we come back to endocrine glands. Now, in contrast to the endocrine glands, the exocrine glands, their secretions always go to a duct. It can be a short duct or it can be a long duct, but then the duct is going to carry it to a surface. So it can be an external surface like your skin, or it can be an internal surface like the inside of your stomach, the inside of your mouth. And so what you have to realize is these are spaces. And so if you go back and you think about the types of tissue, epithelium covers every surface in your body. So these ducts have to be lined with epithelium. Most often it's going to be a cuboidal, either simple or a stratified cuboidal, but not always. All right. So when we look at exocrine glands, we can divide them into two huge categories. The first are, and this is structurally we're classifying. The first are glands that are one cell only, and these are called unicellular exocrine glands. And the example of a unicellular exocrine gland is a cell which is called a goblet cell. And it's called a goblet cell because it has the shape of a wine goblet. Okay. And the goblet cell secretes this substance called mucin. And once the mucin is secreted, it combines with water, because you know, water everywhere in your body, and it forms something called mucus, M-U-C-U-S. A mucus is a noun, but we call a goblet cell a mucus gland, M-U-C-O-U-S gland, because that's the adjective form of the noun mucus. So the noun has two U's, but the adjective has a U and then an O-U-S. So these goblet cells are found in your epithelium. We always find them in pseudostratified columnar epithelium, but sometimes we find them in other columnar epithelium as well. So just seeing goblet cells does not make it pseudostratified columnar epithelium. We'll see lots of these goblet cells and organ systems in the last half of this course. So the other structural way is if the gland is more than one cell. And so these are multicellular glands. And as you can see, there's a variety of shapes. But they fall into two different groupings. The first group are those like the ones in the upper part, and these are more tubular, okay? So they can be a straight, short little tube. It can be a tube that gets a little bit bigger. It can be a tube that's a branch. It can be a tube that comes down and coils it all up. But these are tubular. And then the other type are those that kind of open into more blobby spaces. I don't want you to have to learn the names of these. So just kind of learn that the multicellular glands are either going to fall into these tubular ones, which can be branch or not branch, or these are going to be ones of glands that are a little bit more complex. They're not straight tube, but they get a little bit rounder in nature. So these glands can be mucus glands secreting mucus. They can be serous glands. Remember, serous membrane secreting watery environment. So these would secrete a mostly watery substance. Or they can be what we call a mixed gland, which has both mucus and serous components to it. So as we learn about all these exocrine glands through all the organ systems, well, not all the organ systems, through many of the organ systems in your body, we will talk about whether they're mucus or serous or mixed at that point. So remember, either tubular or more into sacs. They can be very simple or they can be branched. Now, it doesn't matter for the multicellular ones what their structures are, but there's actually 3 different methods of secretion, and no one method of secretion tags with one structural site. So the first type of secretion is called a merocrine secretion, and this is the most common. So if you had to guess, go with this one. And what happens is the epithelial cells in these cells have vesicles filled with the secretion that it wants to get rid of. And so these little vesicles go to the surface of the epithelial cell, where through that process of exocytosis, they're going to and secrete their secretions. So this is how your lacrimal glands do tears, how some of your salivary glands give saliva, and how some of your sweat glands give sweat. Now, in total contrast to that, the next type of gland is called the holocrine gland. For this one, let's look at the prefix holo and put a W in front of there. And you can see that the word whole is there, as in the entire thing. So in the holocrine secretion, the entire cell is going to die. And in that process of disintegrating, that's how it releases its secretions. And the classic type of gland that has holocrine secretion are going to be sebaceous glands in your skin, your oil-producing glands in your skin. And then between these 2 types, we have what are called apocrine or apocrine glands, APO, which refers to the head area. And for this, I put a picture of Henry VIII there, because most of you learned about Henry VIII, and he had all these wives, and he would kill them because they wouldn't give him a male heir. And so he'd say, off with their head. So apocrine secretion, what happens is the apical part, see the apical for apocrine, both of them have AP. So the more surface part of the cell is pinched off, and that's where the secretions are. And so we do have some sweat glands that give us this kind of secretion, as well as in lactating breasts, the mammary glands will have this type of secretion. And with that, we are done with the glands. So thank you for all your hard work, and I'll see you shortly as we start the exploration of the integumentary system.